Hello, today we're going to learn how to draw overlapping silly faces. This is from a handout by Brenda Hodnett from Fine Art Publishers in Halifax, Canada. In this activity, we're going to learn the basics of beginner perspective. And here's something to think about. If you're inside of a spaceship flying through the galaxy, while looking outward into space through a square window, suddenly you see a whole bunch of silly faces floating toward you. They appear bigger and bigger the closer they move to you. In this fun lesson, a group of silly faces seem to be floating through space. Overlapping as a component of geometric perspective is introduced as a means of creating depth. As you see right here on the left-hand side of the screen, here's what our final drawing is going to look like today, and we're going to be using the SketchBook Express application for iPad to draw with. Please repeat the SketchBook Express application icons after me. Gallery, add new sketch, I for information, undo arrow, redo arrow, brush editor, draw styles. Today we'll be using free draw. We also have line tool, rectangle tool, circle tool, symmetry, text, transform, and layers. The first thing you need to do is use 2 fingers to pinch your screen and reduce the overall size of your picture to about 90% for your drawing area. You want to be able to see a little bit of the gray workspace all the way off the edge of your screen. There we go. Now I can see a little bit of the gray all the way around. That's going to help me draw my overlapping silly faces. I'm also going to add in a straight line on mine to help confine my area based on where I'm drawing. For your sight, because this is all you can see of my iPad screen, I'm going to draw a horizontal line right there to give myself a square to draw in. Now let's go ahead and look at the handout and see what we do first. This is a great step-by-step handout to let you see all of the parts. We're going to start with silly face number 1 and draw each one progressively further out in the distance. So this is like an optical illusion. Perspective helps an artist create the appearance of reality in their art. So we want to make our silly faces look like they're further and further out into space. So arrangement is really important. Now we're not going to draw a horizon line in this piece of art, but soon we'll need to be able to create a horizon line and know where the sky meets the ground out in the distance. So the first thing we need to do is to draw a square to confine our drawing space. That's step 1. Now we're going to start using free draw. Our first step is to draw a wiggly line sideways in one corner of our drawing space. That's going to be our first silly face. Make sure it touches the side and touches the bottom so that we can come back later and fill this using fill bucket. Now let's look at the cartoon eyes. We're going to do them this way with a highlight, an iris, and the white of the eye. So notice how that drawing is set up. Let's add some eyes to this silly face. You could use circle tool, but I'm just going to continue using free draw. So let me free draw my 2 eyes. I've got to make sure that oval touches. I don't like that one, so I'm just going to press undo and try again and make sure my oval touches back where I started from. That's important so we can fill those with color. And then there's the circle that ends the iris of the eye. And here's the circle that's going to give me the highlight. That's like light reflected off our eye. Then we can just use fill bucket to fill in the black part of the eye, the iris, like that. That looks great. Let's continue. Oh, and by the way, your silly faces don't have to look exactly like mine. I want yours to look unique. Next, we'll draw the outline of another silly face. This is our silly face number 2 behind this one. And remember, they get progressively smaller the further off into the distance they are. In this one, we get to add eyes and a mouth. Don't forget, the eyes need to get smaller as well. This is a great cartoon eye technique we're learning today. You may have to zoom in to get into some of those smaller parts. And we could fill the mouth up with color too. Let's do that. Let's use fill bucket to zoom in on the iris of the eye. I could also use my pen tool to just color over that. That's fine. That seems to be working better than fill bucket since we'll have some relatively small spaces today. However, with a large space like the mouth, use fill bucket to fill it in. Our next step is to create our third silly face behind that one. And they get further and further back, and the further away they are, the smaller they get. Eyes also get smaller. Pretty soon we'll have to make the radius or the size of our ink pen smaller too, so we can do those reflections in the middle of the eye. And coloring in instead of fill bucket like this allows us to correct some parts of our oval if we need to, like that one. I want to correct that. So those are my first 3 overlapping silly faces. They're 3 different sizes, with the largest one in front. Artists often call this technique working backwards. And again, that helps us create perspective or the illusion of distance or depth in our artwork. Here comes our 4th silly face. This one's going to be on the left-hand side. We've got to make sure that it touches our square or our rectangle that creates our drawing area. And this guy needs to be about the same size, maybe a little bit smaller than number 3. Let's give him some different cartoon eyes. These are definitely smiling eyes. And my other silly face will be a little bit smaller on the other side of the screen. This one looks a little frightened. Now they're getting so far off in the distance, it's difficult to distinguish all 3 parts of their eye. So we'll just give them that highlight where light's being reflected and color in the rest of the space. For our next one, we're going to have to zoom in really, really far out. Oh, let's color in his mouth too. That's our first 5 silly faces. Here come 6 and 7. They need to be slightly smaller than the ones in front of them. He's got a great smile. This one looks pretty angry, maybe because he's so far away from all of his friends. Looks like that's what the one in front of him is scared of. It's the angry face on this guy. We can show so much emotion with just a few lines. I want to make him look even angrier with those crossed eyebrows. This one looks just happy to be here. What a great silly face expression. And if you'd like to, you can use fill bucket to fill in each of your silly faces with a different color. Oh, we have 2 more to go. The 2 smallest faces are really far away, so they're really small compared to all of their friends. There's one, and here's the last one. He's going off the page. And the last guy is so far away. Let's use Fill Bucket to fill each one with a different cool color. You can pick whatever colors you like. I'm going to pick some bright neon colors. Neon colors are very popular this year. Let's make this look like space. We talked about them being in outer space. There we go. And don't forget, your artwork is not finished until you sign your name with the text tool. So please use the text tool to type your name. Make sure you capitalize the first letter of your first name and capitalize the first letter of your last name. I can't wait to see how all of your overlapping silly faces turned out.